Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Paramagurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Sarva Gurubhyo Namaha. So we're continuing our discussion. We're discussing Mumuksupadi by Pila Lokacharya with a commentary by Manavala Munigal. And last time we got up to, I believe, Churnika or Sutra number 23, where we were talking about Artha Panchakam and how the Astakshara mantra being Om Namo Narayanaya, the 8-syllable Narayana mantra, which is the subject of the first part of Mumuksupadi. Mumuksupadi is divided into different sections about the different mantras that are given in Samashrayanam or Pancha Samskara in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, Astakshara mantra, Dwaya mantra, and Charma Sloka of Krishna, Bhagavad Gita 1866. So these three mantras. So each prakaranam or each section will talk about one of these mantras. So we're talking about the Tiramantra, and we were discussing last time up to Sutra number 23. We were discussing how the Artha Panchakam, the five sections of knowledge that are given in the Vedas, in all the Vedic scriptures, there are 5 subject matters of knowledge, are all explained in essence by the Astakshara mantra. So let's continue on with Sutra number 24. So after explaining the Artha Panchakam, right, and how the Artha Panchakam relates to the Tiramantra, he says, after explaining this, the greatness of the mantra's meaning is explained. So previously we were talking about mantras and how mantras can be chanted and they can be used in different rituals and meditation. But the very important aspect of a mantra is not just to chant it, but to know its meaning, especially its secret or esoteric deep meaning. So now we're going to talk about the Tiramantra's meaning in more depth. So Sutra number 24 says, the previous acharyas thought they had not been born until they learned its meaning, meaning the Tiramantra's meaning. So, for instance, in the life of Ramanuja took initiation. He got initiated by Perinambi or Mahapurna, and Mahapurna gave him the mantra. He gave him the Tiramantra. So he had the Tiramantra, but he went to another great acharya, Goshipurna, another disciple. They were both disciples, his acharyas of Yamunacharya. And he went to that person and got some more esoteric, deep meanings about Tiramantra and the other mantras. So just like when we talk about initiation or Panchasamskara or property or Samashrayanam, whatever you want to call it, the mantra is given, but then, and at that point, the person is considered, when a person takes a Vaishnava Diksha, just like any form of Diksha, what do we mean by Diksha, a type of initiation? Then he's considered to be born again. He's born again. So, for instance, with the Upanayam ceremony, the boy gets the sacred thread and he gets the Gayatri mantra. At that time, he's considered to be born again. And his first father and mother are his physical father and mother that give him this material body, and which he takes physical birth from. And the second birth is the birth from the guru or the acharya, the teacher, who gives him a second birth by bringing him close and instructing him in the Vedas, starting with the most important mantra in the Vedas, the Gayatri mantra. That's the Upanayam ceremony. So a person like that is called a Dvija, a person who is Dvija. Dvi means two and Ja means birth. So he was twice born. So he's born again. So here, what it's describing is that not only when you get the mantra, but when you understand the meaning of the mantra, it should be understood to be like a second birth. It's such an important milestone in somebody's life when they understand the actual meaning of the mantra. So the previous acharyas, all the teachers in the Guru Parampara, in the Sampradaya, in the lineage of the mantra, who've passed the mantra down, they've not only passed the mantra down, but they've also passed down the meaning of the mantra. And they all considered it very, very important to learn the inner meanings of the mantra. So maybe we know the mantra. It's a very common mantra. Everybody knows it, but not everybody knows the inner meanings. So that's why Mumuksupadi was written, to give us the esoteric meanings. And these meanings were secret for many years. They were secret, and they were passed down through the lineage by word of mouth from teacher to student, and they weren't written down. And then at a certain point, there's many stories about how the history of how they came to be written down, all the esoteric meanings, because at a certain point, it was considered that they shouldn't be written down, because then many people would have access who were not qualified to understand the esoteric meanings. So it was up to the actual teacher to choose different students who were able to understand the esoteric meanings, and only to teach it to those students. So even up until 50 years or 60 years ago, if you would approach a teacher in Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya and ask them to explain the esoteric meanings of of the Tiramantra or the different mantras, they would say to you, well, yeah, we could discuss that with you, but have you taken Samashranam? Have you taken Panchasamskara? Have you actually been initiated? And if you're not initiated, they would say, well, go get initiated first, and then we'll tell you the inner meaning. We'll tell you the secret meanings, like that. So even up until today, there are some people. Friend of mine, Brahma Muhurta, he was in South India, and he went to. I took him to see Raman Bhatta, who's a great priest and Pandit of Pancharatra Agamas, and he wanted to learn some different things about temple rituals. And because those temple rituals involve the Astakshara mantra and other mantras, Raman Bhatta said to him, yeah, well, we could tell you about this. We could explain all these things to you. But first of all, you should be initiated into these mantras, and you should understand the meanings. So he even today, you can go to people and they'll say, well, that's fine if you want to understand, but you should, first of all, you should take Panchasamskara. So the Acharyas, anyway, the first point here is in the 24th Sutra is even the teachers in the lineage felt that it was so important to understand the meaning of the mantra that they felt like they were born again when they understood it. Once they knew its meaning, as it is said, once I was truly born, I have not forgotten, right? So there's a quotation here. They could not spend their time in any other way but with it. So it's interesting, because sometimes we get something and we don't realize its utility. We don't realize we don't realize how great it is. You get a gift, or you get something given to you, and you don't realize, but actually it's when you investigate, it becomes more important to you, right? You take it for granted when you get it, but then, or we take this mantra for granted because everybody knows it and everybody chants it, and we've seen it here and there. But once we understand the inner meaning of it, then we don't take it for granted anymore, and then we feel like, oh, we want to spend more and more time thinking about the meaning of it, because the meaning of the Astakshara mantra. The Astakshara mantra is not different from the Lord, and the Lord is the means to our salvation, to our liberation, and therefore the Astakshara mantra is the means for our liberation. So our previous acharyas, such as Natamuni, Yamunacharya, and Ramanuja, and in brackets here it says Yativara. So there are many different names for Ramanuja, Yatiraja, Yativara, Emberamanna. There are many, many different names that you'll hear of different Vaishnavacharyas, and this is just one of them that's been put in the brackets here, probably because it was used by either Pillai Lokacharya or probably Manavanamal Muni in his commentary. So Natamuni, Yamuna, and Ramanuja, they consider themselves to be unborn before learning the meaning of this mantra. What do they mean by unborn here? They mean before the child is born, the child is in the womb of the mother, and then only when he's born he comes out and he knows everything. He gets to see everything in the world. So these great teachers who are described as like the what we call Muni Traya, the three great Munis, Nata Muni, Yamuna Muni, and Ramanuja Muni. These great three sages, representatives, members of the Guru Parampara, great teachers. They felt that they had. So what Manavalama Muni is saying here is he's saying that when Pillai Lokacharya says the acharyas felt that they were born again by understanding the meaning of the Tiramantra, he's saying which acharyas? He's explaining Nata Muni, Yamunacharya, and Ramanuja felt like that. Maybe others also, but he's just saying these are the most important acharyas, and they all felt like that. So before they learned the meaning of the mantra, they thought, at that time, I have not yet been born. Once they had learned its meaning, as in the divine words of the Alwar, usually when we just say the word Alwar, we mean Nam Alwar. There are actually 12 Alwars, but when we just say Alwar and we don't say that a name before the Alwar, we usually mean Nam Alwar, who wrote Tiravai Moli, one quarter of the 4,000 divine Tamil hymns called Nalayir Divya Prabandham, who said, right, once I was truly born, I have not forgotten. So that's a quote from Namalwar. They did not know any other way to spend their time but with this mantra's meaning, right? So you notice here again, the emphasis is on the mantra's meaning. They're not saying that these acharyas spent their time reciting the mantra over and over and over and over and over again in japa. What we call japa means just recitation, or using it in puja, worship of a deity, or using it in homa, in a fire ritual. What they're saying is that they were more attached to meditating on the meaning of the mantra. Meditating on the meaning of the mantra. The meaning of the mantra was most important to them. So we can sit and we can meditate on the meaning of Astakshara mantra, and we're not actually reciting the mantra. It doesn't mean that reciting the mantra is bad. Reciting the mantra is also very good. And while we recite the mantra, we should also think of the meaning. But between the meaning and the recitation, the meaning is more important. This is because on account of what the Vedas, Shastras, and Alwars have said, they were continually reflecting on and being nourished by this mantra's meaning. Granted that the power of this utterance, the vachika, the utterance, the mantra, allows anything to be accomplished, but why should the acharyas have held so firmly to the one to whom the mantra refers, the vachya? To this he replies. So the question being asked here is that okay, so you say that the mantra is so powerful that if you chant it, anything can be accomplished. And I think we were discussing this before, that any material desire, any spiritual desire is going to be accomplished by chanting this mantra. And we know from the Narayana Upanishad, it says, Vaikuntha Bhuvana Lokam Gamishyati, right? Om Namo Narayana iti mantropasakaha, Vaikuntha Bhuvana Lokam Gamishyati, that he will go to that person who understands, who worships this mantra, who understands the meaning and who chants this mantra, will go to Vaikuntha. But but why should the teachers, the acharyas, have held so firmly to the one to whom this mantra refers, the vachya? So the teachers, they're firmly surrendered to the Supreme Lord Sriman Narayana. Sriman Narayana is the vachya, is the person to whom the mantra refers to, right? So the vachika and the vachya. So this is the difference. There's really no difference between the mantra and the Supreme Lord, but we call the mantra the vachika, the utterance, and the Lord the vachya, the one who is referred to in the mantra, right? Narayana is there in the mantra. So now let's just have a look. Let's have a look at P.B. and Angacharya's commentary. So if we go to Sutra number 24. The meaning again is the Purvacharyas, or the previous teachers, starting with Sri Natha Muni, right? Starting with Sri Natha Muni. So from Natha Muni, basically, there's two more teachers in between Natha Muni and Yamunacharya, but then you get Yamunacharya, and then you get Perinambi and Ramanuja. So basically, the three important teachers that were discussed in the other translation: Natha Muni, Yamunacharya, and Ramanuja. Thought themselves as unborn. These teachers, the Purvacharyas, starting with Natha Muni, felt themselves to be unborn, as in Tirumalasai Alwar's Pasaram. Okay, so that's interesting. Here he says the Alwar being referred to as Tirumalasai Alwar and not, as I said, Nam Alwar. Okay, so I stand corrected, right? So he's saying that he's giving a quotation from Tirumalasai Alwars. Now, there are three of the chronologically the Alwars and different sections come in different sections, right? So the first set of Alwars were three Alwars called Mudal Alwars. So Mudal means the first Alwars. So chronologically, the first Alwars who appeared just before the beginning of Kali Yuga are Pogai, Budid, and Pei Alwars, right? So Pogai, Budid, and Pei Alwars, they were all called Ionages. They didn't take birth from any mother. They were born from different flowers in different temple tanks in Kanchipuram, in Chennai, and in Mahabalipuram. So these Alwars were considered unborn, right? Because they didn't have any mothers like that. So it's interesting that they mentioned the fourth Alwar. His name is Tirumalasai Alwar. So Tirumalasai Alwar was actually, I believe, a disciple of Pei Alwar. So then, and the word Pei in Tamil means ghost, because he danced sort of like a ghost, like a frenzied person when in ecstasy. So until the time. So he has this particular pasaram or verse in the Nalaya Divya Prabandham where he mentions that until the time that they understood the meanings of the he felt himself, Tirumalasai also felt himself unborn until he understood the meaning of the Tiramantra. Once that knowledge was obtained, again, as in Tirumalasai Alwar's pasaram, and he gives another explanation, another quote from Tirumalasai's pasarams, they would use nothing but the Tiramantra in spending their time, either reflecting on its meaning or chanting it. So the Bibhiyanangacharya's Sarata Dipika, this is a small commentary on Mumuksupadi. He says the greatness of the Tiramantra in general sense is being presented by Sri Pila Lokacharya. As in Tirumalasai Alwar's pasaram, I was not born then. So the meaning of the first quotation is, I was not born then. The previous teachers, such as Sriman Nathamuni Alavandar, means Yamunacharya, and Ramanuja, did not think themselves as born until the time that they understood the meanings of the Tiramantra. So even Ramanuja, even though he had the mantra, until he understood the deep esoteric meanings of the mantra, like Yamunacharya and like Nathamuni before him, did not consider that he was actually born. He considered that to be a great stepping stone, or a realization, or an epiphany that he came to, a different stage in his life after he understood the meanings of the Tiramantra. Once they fully understood its meanings, as in Tirumalasai Alwar's pasaram, right? He says, once born, I will not forget. Once born, I will not forget. So the first thing to understand about this sutra is you think that until I understand the real meanings of the Tiramantra, I'm not yet even born in spiritual life. But once I do understand it, I'm not only am I born, I will never forget it. I will never forget it. So this is just to explain to you how what a deep impression the meaning of the Tiramantra made on these great teachers. So they will not use anything but the meanings of Tiramantra in passing their time. Right? So we're all passing our time until the end of this life, until the Lord saves us and takes us to liberation, takes us to his eternal service, which is our understanding of moksha or liberation. And so in that time, the most important thing is the meaning of Tiramantra for us in this lifetime. This pasaram occurs in the 64th of the Tiruchanda Virutam. Tiruchanda Virutam is a composition, a poem by Tirumala Sayalwar, where it states that without true knowledge, a soul has no essence. What is the essence of a soul? In Europe, Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. So knowledge is the essence of the soul, even in Indian philosophy, even in Western philosophy. Consciousness means knowledge. You can't say, I'm conscious, but I don't know anything. At least the very first thing that we realize is that we realize because I'm conscious, I think, therefore I am. So I have an inherent knowledge of myself, that I exist, right? Everybody has this knowledge that they exist. Now, there are many, many philosophies in this world. Some of them say the world does not exist. Other people do not exist. God doesn't exist. There are many philosophies like that. But it's very, very difficult to preach a philosophy to people that you do not exist. So there are some Buddhist schools actually that teach this. They try to teach people that you don't exist. It's very, very difficult to teach. It's because our inherent understanding is that we exist. Descartes says, I think, therefore I am. And we also say, we just have that experience, that everybody has that experience, that we understand that we exist because of our consciousness, because of our self-awareness, our self-knowledge. Okay? So because of our self-knowledge, we know. Now here, what Tirumala Sayalwar is saying, right, that I don't have any real knowledge, even this knowledge is not considered real knowledge. I don't have any real knowledge, right, unless without the knowledge of the Tiramantra, without the knowledge of the Tiramantra, I don't really exist. And why is that? Because the knowledge of the meaning of the Tiramantra is that we're completely subservient and dependent on the Lord, right? So without that knowledge, we don't really understand ourselves. So we don't have real self-knowledge. People think they have complete self-knowledge, but they don't have complete self-knowledge because they still think that they belong to themselves, right? They think that they're independent. Okay, you're not independent and you do not belong to yourself, right? So you're totally dependent and subservient to the Lord. That's the real essence of self-knowledge. So without that, there is no essence to the soul, because the soul is basically that knowledge. So once that knowledge is obtained from him, right? Once we get that knowledge from the Lord, because all knowledge comes from the Lord, according to Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, from me, knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness come. The soul gains upliftment using it. So once we have true knowledge, real knowledge, right, that we are the eternal servants and completely dependent and subservient to the Lord, then by using that understanding, that realization, we can be uplifted. As it is stated in the other quotation, right, that we once born, we never forget. Right? Once you're born, you never go back. When you're in the womb of the mother, then you can't see anything. You can't understand the material world. You can't have knowledge of your surroundings. Once you come out from the mother and you come into this world, then you can never go back to that ignorance of being covered by the womb and not having any connection with this world, or having the knowledge of this world. So that's the analogy which is being given. That is, a lack of Tiramantra knowledge is lacking essence, and having the essence is the non-stop enjoyment of that knowledge. So not only is he saying that the knowledge is important for spiritual upliftment, but the knowledge is essential for understanding our true nature of bliss also, our true nature of happiness. Because you can't be happy until you understand your true nature, right? So the nature of the soul, the nature of Brahman, the nature of spiritual entities is that they are Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat is eternal, okay? So we only understand that when we understand that we're the Atman. Chit, knowledge, again, that self-knowledge, or here it's compared to knowledge of the Tiramantra, or the meaning of the Tiramantra, the meaning of all those Artha Panchakas, right? That's those 5 subjects. And Ananda, bliss. And so one leads to the other. First, we have to understand that we're eternal. Yeah, we're eternal. We're not this body. We are an Atma. We are a spiritual conscious being, and we can travel through different bodies, birth after birth. So that's our understanding of eternality. Chit, real knowledge, means that we understand that we are actually completely subservient and dependent upon the Lord. So we're meant for his service. And then from that, Ananda is realized, because once we realize that what our natural position is, and we can start to act like that, then at that time, we become blissful, because we're back to our natural situation. So again, having that essence is the non-stop enjoyment of that knowledge. Can one say that the Purvacharyas, the previous teachers, did not spend their time with anything but the Tiramantra? Do they not spend their time with the Vedas, the Shastras, the Alvaras, divine works? That is true. However, even when they spend time with those, it is done using the meanings of the Tiramantra, right? Because all the Shastras, it was explained, all the Shastras, right, mean, the meanings in all the Shastras are the different Artha Panchakas, right? The 5 different subjects, right? The soul, the Lord, the goal, the means to the goal, and the impediments to getting to the goal. Those 5 things. So those are the 5 subjects of all the scriptures. Those are the 5 subjects that all the teachers teach about. Those are the 5 subjects of the Vedas, the Shruti, the Smriti, and what the Alvars were talking about also. Those are the 5 subjects, right? So if we're studying the works of the Alvars, if we're studying the Smriti Shastras or the Shruti, the Vedas, right, we're only going to find the Artha Panchaka. We're going to find those subject matters. And now we understand those subject matters because we understand the meaning of the Tiramantra, and the meaning of those subject matters in the scriptures or in the Alvars works are the same. So by understanding deeply the Tiramantra, the essence of the Tiramantra, we're able to now understand the scriptures. We're able to understand the Smriti and the Shruti and the works of the Alvars, because we have something to judge it by. If we truly understand the essence of the Tiramantra, then we can understand all these other things, because they're the same. The meaning is the same. However, even when they spend time with those, it is done with the meanings of the Tiramantra. So they judge everything in the scriptures by the meaning of the meaning of the Tiramantra. First of all, understand the Tiramantra, understand the essence of the Tiramantra. Then you can understand any other scripture, because any other scripture is simply an elaboration of the same meanings, the Artha Panchaka of the Tiramantra. Therefore, it is appropriate to state that they only use the Tiramantra. Okay, so some people might say, when we say that the acharyas, the previous teachers, only spent their time with the meaning and the recitation of the Tiramantra, then somebody will object. No, that's not true. We could see, look at their lives, look at the history of their lives. They did so many other things, right? No, everything that they did involved the Artha Panchika, which is the essence of the Tiramantra. And therefore, by understanding the essence of the Tiramantra, they could understand everything else. So, going back to the next sutra, sutra number 25. The reason for holding more firmly to the one indicated by its utterance, the Vachya or the Lord, than to this utterance itself, right? Upaya means the means. The utterance itself is considered to be the means. Is faith that the Lord alone is the means and the goal. Okay, so although the mantra is told, when the mantra is given to people, they're told that this mantra, the Astakshara mantra, is the means to liberation. But actually, it's the Lord himself which is the means to liberation. As we discussed before in Sri Vachanabhushana class, we were discussing that the Acharya delivers the initial means. The Tiramantra is called the initial means. It's the dwelling on the meaning of the Astakshara mantra and using the Astakshara mantra in japa, puja, homa, right? Is a means, is the initial means. But once we understand that the meaning of the Astakshara mantra is the Lord himself, the Lord actually is the primary means. So even though the power of this statement itself, which brings results as a sadhana or a method, right, in its own right, or as an aid to other sadhanas is well established as stated above, right? Because we discussed that the Astakshara mantra can be used for property, it can be used by the prapana, but it can also be used by the karma yogi, the jnana yogi, the bhakti yogi, all these other people, even it can be used by people with material desires. All these three, the karma yogi, jnana yogi, and bhakti yogi, they're actually looking for liberation. And then there are other people who are not even looking for liberation. They have material desires. And the Astakshara mantra can be used as an aid by all these people. It's so great. Because it will give the results to anybody, no matter what their desires are. So that's what it's saying here. So even though the power of this statement itself, right, which brings results as a sadhana in its own right, the Astakshara mantra, right? And as an aid to other sadhanas is well established, as stated above. The previous acharyas held more firmly to the one who is referred to in this mantra than to it. So the previous acharyas have firmly meditated upon the Lord, and they've held more firmly to the Lord than to the mantra itself. The reason for this is that they reverence the Lord himself as the means, the upaya, and the goal, the upaya, right? Thus, they were not like those who are devoted to other goals, who take this mantra as a sadhana, or like those devoted to other means, who take this mantra as an aid. Okay. So there are some people who are devoted to other goals. They have another goal, meaning they don't have the goal of liberation, right? So they want some material prosperity. They want something else that's their goal. So for them, they take chanting of the Tiramantra as being a sadhana. So they just chant it and they hope to get their material desire fulfilled. Then there are people like karma yogis, jnana yogis, and bhakti yogis who take the Tiramantra as an aid to their devotion or their works or their knowledge. They think that by using the Tiramantra, that will help them with their paths of effort, their different paths of effort. So they take it as, the first people take it as a sadhana. The second people, right, the karma yogi, jnana yogi, bhakti yogis, they take it as an aid to karma, an aid to karma yoga, an aid to jnana yoga, an aid to bhakti yoga, right? But the prapana is simply meditating. He's thinking that he's realized the meaning of the Tiramantra, and he chants the Tiramantra, and he's just spending his time thinking of the meaning of the Tiramantra, or chanting and using the Tiramantra until the time of death. But it is not that the prapana thinks that process that he's doing there is actually the means of his liberation. He's not thinking that. He knows that the Lord himself is the only means to his liberation. So he's just got time to spend between now and when his material body falls, when he dies, to spend, and he spends that enjoyably, meditating on the meaning of the Tiramantra and using the Tiramantra in puja, in homa, in japa. He can do that too. Out of which of those two things, the meditating on the meaning is much more important. Therefore, from the churna, there's a sutra, from the sutra that says, in accord with the greatness of the Tiramantra, right? To this point, Pira Lokacharya has revealed, number one, the great worth of this mantra, such that it is not proper to utter it casually. Okay, so Pira Lokacharya is giving he's giving some rules and regulations here about chanting the mantra. So the first thing here, he's giving some details here, some detailed information. Great worth of this mantra, because it's so great, we should not utter it casually. And remember, when we were talking about the chanting of Tiramantra, it normally should be chanted. If you're going to do recitation, it should be done mentally. It should be done mentally. If you are using it, of course, if you're using it in puja, if it's going to be done vachik, or in homa, it has to be chanted, a little bit louder. It doesn't have to be chanted extremely loud. But anyway, it says the great worth of this, considering the great worth of this mantra, it should not be uttered casually. Number two, in greatness, due to the fact that the Lord himself appeared as disciple and acharya to reveal it, right? So again, the greatness of the mantra comes from so many reasons. And one of the reasons he's reiterating here is that Sriman Narayana came as Narayana Rishi and Nara Rishi, came as the perfect teacher and the perfect student in Bhadrak Ashram to reveal this mantra. So that makes it a special mantra too. Number three, its superiority in comparison to all shastras, all scriptures, to all other mantras, and even to one to whom it refers, the Lord. So it's superior to all the scriptures. It's superior to all the other mantras. We talked about the different vyapaka and avyapaka mantras, and out of all the mantras, the vyapaka mantras were more important. And out of the three vyapaka mantras, remember the 12-syllable, 6-syllable, and the 8-syllable Vishnu mantras: Om Namo Narayana, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva, Om Namo Vishnave. The Om Namo Narayana mantra was the most important and the greatest, and even the fact that it's so great, it's considered in greatness to be even greater than the Lord. Number four, its greatness in granting results even when recited improperly. So normally, when we have a mantra, we have to recite the mantra correctly. And in the Vedas, of course, there are also swaras. There are different pitches. You have to get not only the pronunciation of the letters, not only the proper meter, poetic meter, not only the swaras, the different intonations. Everything has to be done correctly. And one should know the rishi, the rishi who was the seer of the mantra. One has to know the purpose of the mantra. One has to know the poetic meter. One has to know the deity, which is one has to meditate upon the deity of the particular mantra in order to get the full result of the mantra. But with the Astakshara mantra, you don't have to know all those things. It's so great that even when recited improperly, at the end of different rituals, we say mantrahinam, krihinam, bhaktihinam, janatana. We'll pray to the Lord to protect us and to help us and to alleviate any faults in the ceremony, the ritual that we performed. And we say, if there's a mantrahinam, if we improperly chanted the mantras. So with Astakshara, we don't have to really worry about that. But we still use that prayer because there are many other mantras that we chant. But with the Astakshara mantra, even if you chant it improperly, and we also saw that there are some people who are chanting it in slightly different ways. Am Namo Narayanaya, some Vaishnava groups are, the Vadagalais are telling the ladies to chant Am Namo Narayanaya instead of Om Namo Narayanaya. I mean, from the Tengalai point of view, from the Southern School's point of view, that's an improper way to recite Astakshara mantra. It's not given in the Shastras like that. Then there are other ways that they also say for Sudras and Panchamas. For Sudras, they have to chant only Namo Narayanaya without Am or Om. And the Vadagalais also say that even somebody who chants, even a Sudra, if he's less than a Sudra, like a Malecha or a foreigner, that person should only chant Namo Narayana without the Aya even, and that would also be not the 8-syllable mantra, because Namo Narayanaya is only Narayanaya, 7, right? Is 7, and Namo Narayana is 6 syllables. So it's not 8 syllables, it's not correct, it's not recited properly. But even then it still works, right? And how do we know this? Remember the Bhagavatam story about Ajamil. Ajamil, he didn't chant Om Namo Narayana. He didn't chant Am Namo Narayana. He didn't chant Namo Narayana. He didn't chant Namo Narayana. He only chanted Narayana. Narayanaya. Narayanaya. Five syllables, right? Not 8, not 7, not 6, but 5. Only the word Narayana, only the name Narayana. But it is part of the Astakshara mantra, and the Astakshara mantra, if you chant it, even if you recite it improperly, it works. So we can say Ajamil was saved by the Astakshara mantra. He just didn't chant it properly. He didn't chant it correctly. He only chanted Narayana. But because even the Astakshara mantra, if it's not chanted properly, even though he just chanted the word Narayana, he was saved. So it's also, these are all explaining how great it is, right? Because the first point Tilakacharya was making, that you shouldn't chant it casually because it's so great. So here's the reasons why it's great. Again, given in a list. Number 5, it's magnificent in granting all desired goals. So we talked about this before: material goals, spiritual goals, liberation, even impersonal liberation, even kaivalya, even what's it called? Kaivalya means isolation. The bliss of isolation is a type of impersonal liberation. It is completely possible to want to have that as a desire, and to have that desire be fulfilled by the Astakshara mantra. So material goals, the spiritual kaivalya mukti, and even these other forms of liberation, the swarupya, samipya, sharsti, and salokya. These are the four types of liberation. They're also mentioned in the Bhagavatam. So any goal, it grants any goal, all goals. And number 6, it's excellence in aiding the upayas such as Kama Yoga. Again, we discussed this before. Kama Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, these paths of effort, right? The path of works, the path of knowledge, and the path of devotion are all aided by the use of the Astakshara mantra. That also means that it's great because of that. And 7, its loftiness in expounding all truths to be known. All truths to be known can be, all the truths to be known can be are given in the Vedas, are given in the Shastras, are given in the Alvar's works, and therefore are known as the Artha Panchakam, the five parts of knowledge. We also have the Pancharatra system, which also talks about 5 types of knowledge, right? Pancha means 5, Ratra means night. Night here means ignorance, because when it's night, there's darkness, and darkness is ignorance. So, in fact, the Ratra here means the knowledge which dispels the ignorance or dispels the night. This is one meaning of the word Pancharatra. So there are five knowledges which dispel 5 types of ignorance. And there again, the Artha Panchakam. So the Astakshara mantra dispels all those things, because within the Artha Panchakam, within the Astakshara mantra itself is the whole Artha Panchakam. So it dispels that. It gives all the knowledge of all the truths to be known. Then point 8, the unique importance of the truths it propounds. The unique importance. What is the importance of the truths that it propounds? The importance is that it enables the realization of that truth, enables us to know our true nature as completely subservient and dependent on God, and therefore to attain liberation, which is the eternal service in Vaikuntha. Thus, Pilokacharya has demonstrated the excellence of this mantra for all to know. After this, he reveals that for this mantra there are 2 ways to construe its meaning as a whole. Right? So, first of all, we should understand what is the meaning of the mantra as a whole. Right? There are different meanings to the different words in the mantra and the different syllables in the words. But let us just first of all understand the meaning of the mantra as a whole, which is called the Vakyartha. Right? Okay. So now let's look at what Pibyanacharya has to say about number 25. The meaning of the sutra is, previously it was shown that the Tiramantra, the Vachika, is greater than the Lord, the Vacha, of whom it speaks about. Then why were our acharyas attracted so much to him rather than just to the Tiramantra? Why are they attracted so much to the Supreme Lord and not just to the mantra? Our acharyas did not seek to attain certain things by using the Tiramantra, right? So they had no goal other than liberation, the supreme service of the eternal service of the Supreme Lord from the Tiramantra, or use other means to a certain end while keeping the Tiramantra as supporting means. So this was discussed before. They consider only him as both the means, the upaya, and the upaya, the goal, the means and the goal. The Supreme Lord is the means and the goal. So Pibyanacharya says in the previous sutras, the importance and power of the Tiramantra were greatly talked about. It was said that the Tiramantra helps bring about things that are seeked. So, desires, goals that people have, different goals. Also that it helps support and complete karma, jnana, and bhakti yoga paths. So we already talked about this, that there are people who want something else rather than liberation. They want dharma, artha, kama. They want these different purusharthas. There are 4 purusharthas: religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification. So if you want those things, that's fine. The Tiramantra will help you attain those goals. If you want liberation, and therefore you're a karma yogi, jnana yogi, or bhakti yogi, the person who's following the path of works, the path of knowledge, or the path of devotion, then it also will help you. It's an aid. It's an aid to those things. It's an aid to those paths. It's used as part of those paths. As a Tiramantra, and for the Prapana, it's not any of those things. For the Prapana, it's just It's used as a thing that we meditate upon until the end of this life, and we enjoy it, and we know the meaning and we use it. But it's not as made as a sadhana or an aid to these different paths of efforts. As the Tiramantra has such greatness, why doesn't everyone simply be immersed in it alone? Instead, why are our acharyas so deeply attached to him who is spoken of by the Tiramantra? It is because of the following reasons. There are many that use the Tiramantra as a tool to obtain certain things that they seek. Others seek him as a goal and use karma yoga, jnana yoga, and bhakti yogas, right? While using the Tiramantra as supporting tool of their path. Our acharyas are unlike either group. They consider him, or the Supreme Lord, as the means as well as the goal, as the upaya, the means, and the upaya, the goal. As such, they are greatly attached only to him, the vacha, the person who is spoken about in the Tiramantra, who is spoken by the Tiramantra, vachaka, the utterance, rather than the mantra, than on the mantra itself. So what he's saying is ultimately the acharyas, the prapanas and the acharyas, are not even attached to the mantra itself, right? But they're attached to the Lord. The Lord is of course more important to them than the mantra itself. But the mantra is the initial means of attaining the Lord. It's an initial means. It's not the primary means. The primary means is the Lord himself, right? And the reason for this is that there is no other means than the Lord himself. If there is some other means, right, then we would have to say, okay, here's the point. If we say that the Lord himself is the means, then there's nothing that we can do, nothing that we have to do, no qualification that we have to come up to reach the Lord. Because reaching the Lord is the goal, and the Lord himself will fulfill the goal. He's the means and the goal. But if we say the mantra is the means, in any way, right, that means we have to meditate upon the meaning, or we have to chant the mantra. If we don't meditate on the meaning, and we don't chant the mantra, right, then we don't attain the goal, if that's the means, if that is actually the means. So the point here is being made that that's not actually the means. Therefore, we shouldn't think it's the means as prapanas. It's okay if you want to think of it, if you're a bhakti yogi, karma yogi, jnana yogi, and you want to think it's an aid to your spiritual path of effort, then you have to chant it. Then you have to meditate on the meaning. But here, it's saying only the Lord is the goal. Only the Lord is the goal, and only the Lord is the means to that goal. And therefore, there is no qualification because otherwise, if the mantra was actually the means, right, the only means, right, then you would have to chant it. You would have to meditate on the meaning. But you don't, because there is no way for you to attain liberation without the Lord. The Lord is the one who is giving you moksha. He is the means. He's doing everything, and you're not doing anything. So to think that the mantra is also the means, or also the either by meditating on the meaning or by chanting, doing repetition of it, that's also a fallacy for a prapana. For these other people who want dharma, artha, and kama, or the people who want liberation through the path of works or the path of knowledge or the path of liberation, karma, jnana, and bhakti yogas, for them, sure, they have to meditate on the meaning. We don't have to do that. Prapanas don't have to do that. We don't have to meditate on the meaning. We don't have to do repetition of Astakshara mantra, because the Lord is the only upaya. He's the only means. So why do we do it? Why do we do recitation of Astakshara mantra? Why do prapanas also meditate on the meaning of the mantra? Right now we're meditating on the meaning of the mantra. Why do we do it? We enjoy it. It's passing our time to the end of life when the Lord himself will give us liberation. Okay, so till this sutra, the greatness of the Tiramantra was explained by Pillai Lokacharya. From here on, he's going to explain the meanings of the mantra. So first of all, he's explained how great the mantra is by all these different meanings, all these different reasons. Now he's going to say what the meaning of the mantra is. So if we get back to the 26th sutra, so we're going to, first of all, take the whole mantra, Om Namo Narayanaya, the whole mantra, and understand its meaning. The meaning stated in it may be either one, the Swarupa, the essential nature, right? And the goal, Prapya, what is to be attained, in accord with the Swarupa, right? So understanding the Swarupa, the essential nature of God and the essential nature of oneself is Swarupa. And Prapya, the goal to be attained. What is the goal? The goal is moksha. What is moksha? Moksha is eternal service at the feet of Sriman Narayana in Vaikuntha, right? And Sriman Narayana himself is the goal, right? Therefore, or two, the second meaning, the Swarupa, the means, right? And the result. So the Swarupa, the essential essence of the soul and of God, right? And the means, the method of attaining the goal, which was spoken out before, and the result, the phala, the fruit, right? These are the two meanings. So number one, the meaning stated in this mantra may be stated as follows. A, the soul's essential nature, Swarupa, of subservience, sheshatva. So twa, the word twa, the ending twa in Sanskrit means, like in the English, it means ness. So shesha means servant, servitorship, or servantness, to be a servant. The quality of being a servant is sheshatva. The word sheshatva means subservience. So that is the essential nature of the soul, subservience. And paratantriya. Paratantriya is opposite of swatantriya. Swatantra means independence. The soul is not independent, so therefore it's not swatantra, but paratantra, paratantriya. So these are the two things. The essential nature of the soul is subservience and dependence. Subservience and dependence. And not dependence on anybody else, only dependence on Sriman Narayana, right? So we may think, in this material world, we may think, oh, I'm dependent on my husband, I'm dependent on my wife, I'm dependent on my parents, I'm dependent upon my children. We may think that I'm dependent on my government. No, the soul is only dependent on Sriman Narayana. The essential nature of the soul is that he is subservient and dependent. So remember we were talking about the soul is knowledge. The soul is a doer. In Vedantic terms, the soul is a minute doer. He can do small, very tiny thing. We have this. God can do anything, and we can do very little. But because we have that similar nature of being Sat Chit Ananda, eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss, right? But this is really, in Vedantic terms, this is what the soul is. But in the Sri Vaishnava terms, in terms of property, in terms of understanding our real nature, the 10 Acharya school, the Tengalaya Acharyas have put more emphasis on these two aspects, these two qualifications, these two qualities of the soul, subservience and dependence. They're much more important than the fact that the soul is a minute doer. Subservience and dependence. Okay, so the essential nature, right? The Swarupa, what does it mean? Swarupa, it means to understand that you're subservient and dependent on the Lord. B, the goal, Prapya of the service. Kain Karya means service. Prapya means the goal, what is to be attained. Prapti means to grasp or to attain. So Prapya means that which is to be attained, right? Which is in accord with that nature. So once you understand that you're completely subservient and dependent on the Lord, then what can you attain? You can only attain which is in concert or is there with your nature. Whatever your nature is, that you will attain. So your nature is to be totally subservient and dependent. So your goal is therefore to be totally subservient and dependent on the Lord. That's your goal, is to serve him and be dependent upon him. So that's the first understanding of the mantra. The second understanding is, alternatively, we may state that its meaning is A, the soul's essential nature, Swarupa, of subservience, right? Subservience. B, the means, the upaya, which is in accord with that nature. So being subservient to the Lord, being a servant, being subservient means being a servant. There's no meaning to being a servant if there is no master. There has to be a master. That master is Sriman Narayana. Okay, right? So understanding our essential nature means that we're a servant of Sriman Narayana. Not just that we're a servant, because we are a servant, and therefore we have to be a servant of somebody, and that person can only be the Supreme, person. B, the means upaya, which is in accord with that nature. So the means to that is to simply understand our nature. That is what property means. It's to simply understand our subservience and dependence on the Lord. So that is the means. And the means are basically him, because there is no other means. It's not by meditating on that, or by thinking that, or by doing something we can attain that service only by his grace, only by the Supreme Lord, and therefore he is the upaya. And the result, the phala, or the fruit of the endeavor, of the means, right, is going to be liberation or eternal service in Vaikuntha, which is to be attained by that means. So what are we saying in the second meaning is? The second meaning is to understand the essential nature of the soul, which is complete subservience. To understand God as the means, right? God is the means, and to understand God or God's service as the goal. In the first of these interpretations, the soul's nature is stated by the pranava. In the first of these interpretations, the soul's nature is explained by the pranava. Pranava meaning Omkara, A-U-M, Om. The word namas, or the word namaha, or the word in the mantra namo, in Om Namo Narayanaya, right? That also explains the nature of the soul. So the soul's nature, the Swarupa, in the first interpretation above, is explained by the two words Om, Namo. The goal, right, or the prapya, that which is to be attained, is understood by the word Narayana. That's the goal. In the other interpretation, subservience is understood by the pranava. The means, or the upaya, the method towards liberation, is understood by the word namo or namas, right? And the result, the upaya or the goal, is explained by the word Narayana. Does everybody understand that? There are two ways of looking at it, and he's explained both ways. What is this result like? Okay, explains what is this result like. To this he replies. Let's first of all see what 26 is explained by by P.B. and Angacharya. So again, the meaning of this particular sutra, right? The meanings of the Tiramantra are the nature of the soul which is being enslaved to him and having no refuge but him, and the kainkarya, or the service goal, which is the natural order for the soul. The meanings are also brought out through pranava, the nature of the soul is established, through namaha, the means which is the knowledge, right? That there is no self-dependence, right? There's nothing that we can do. It's all up to him, right? Is established. And through Narayanaya, the goal seeked is established, right? So that explains the two different ways of looking at the Tiramantra. So he says, from this sutra on, the meanings of the Tiramantra will be explained in detail. First, the meanings of the words making up the Tiramantra explained in two ways. One way is that the Tiramantra shows the nature of the soul and the goal. The other way is that it shows the nature of the soul, the means, and the goal. The nature of the soul is that it's enslaved to the Lord and has no other refuge. The goal seeked is Nitya Kainkaryam, or eternal service to him, to the Supreme Lord Srimanarayana in Vaikuntha. The pranava, Om, and namaha, or namo, in the word Om Namo Narayana, Om and namo in the Tiramantra show the swarupa, or essential nature of the soul. And the Narayanaya shows the word Narayanaya shows the kainkarya, or the service goal that is seeked. That's our goal. Our goal is eternal service in Sri Vaikuntha. In the second way, instead of taking that pranava and namaha together as meaning the swarupa, right, of the soul, or the essence of the soul, the pranava shows the swarupa and namaha shows the means, and Narayanaya shows the goal. Okay, so just very quickly again, right? Two ways of looking at Om Namo Narayanaya, right? One way is we say Om Namo explains the swarupa of the soul, the essential nature of the soul. Narayanaya explains the goal, and the means and the goal. The means and the goal. Right? The second way of looking at it is Om explains the swarupa of the soul. Namo explains the means to liberation, the upaya, and Narayanaya means the goal, is the goal. So they're the two ways of breaking it up. How does Namo, or Namaha, right, show the means? In order to reach him, one has to lose the thought that one can save oneself. Let me say that again. In order to reach him, right, which is the goal, right, to reach his eternal service, one has to lose the thought that one can save oneself. What we just talked about before, the drowning man has to give up struggling. He basically has to resign himself to drowning, and then only he can be saved. The knowledge of complete dependence on the Lord is the way to attain the kainkarya pala, the fruit of service, eternal service in Sri Vaikuntha. The false knowledge of self-independence is removed by the utterance of the word Namo. Not me, not to me, not of me, not by me, right? Not me, Namo, right? And as such, it represents the means. It is the means. The means is to understand. The means is to what? Is to understand that I am completely dependent on the Lord, and therefore I cannot save myself. That is the means. That understanding is the means. Okay, so going back to Sutra number 27, we're asking, what is that result like? To this he replies, the nature of the result, the fruit, right? What did we say the fruit was? Kainkarya pala. This is here, it's just said phala, but Kainkarya phala means the fruit, means the actual goal of all of this is to attain this, the service of Sriman Narayana in Vaikuntha eternally. Right? We have discussed in Prameya Shekara and Achiradigati. So there are two other books. There are other books. There are 18 books for Astadasa. Is it 18 books by Piralokacharya? Right? Out of which two of them are called Prameya Shekara and Achiradigati. Achiradigati means going by the path of light back to Vaikuntha. It describes how the soul goes back to Vaikuntha. Prameya Shekara. Shekara, it's talking about the Prameya or the goal. Talking about the goal. Prameya is the goal. Something which is established. By pramana, by proofs, we establish the principle, right? The goal. So the result to be attained for the soul is going to the supreme heaven, Paramapada, or Sri Vaikuntha, fully experiencing the Lord and performing complete service, ashesha vritti, full service, complete service, inspired by the love arising from that experience. That's the goal. Piralokacharya says that he has explained all this concisely in his book, Prameya Shekara, and elaborately in the book, Achiradigati, so that we can consult these. So these are other books by Piralokacharya, which we can consult. After this, with the intention to present the truths explained in this mantra, he first gives the number of syllables and the number of words it has. The meaning again of the sutra, Sutra 27, is the end result of the goal seeked by souls, has been explained by Piralokacharya shortly in the Rahasya Rahasya Grantha called Prameya Shekara, and in detail and more elaborately in the Rahasya Grantha. Rahasya Grantha means esoteric, book of esoteric meanings, called Achiradigati. In the previous sutra, in showing the meanings of the words that make up the Tiramantra, it was said that Narayana shows the result of the goal. The word Narayana shows the result of the goal seeked. If one wishes to know the details of what this result is, which starts from attaining moksha and ends in earning his eternal service, it has to be explained. It has been explained in the two books of secrets called Rahasya Granthas, in short, in Prameya Shekara, and in detail, the Achiradigati. Okay, so go back to the other text. So first of all, he's going to explain now in detail. We've explained what the mantra means in full. Now we're going to break it up into different parts, into different words and different syllables and different letters, and we're going to explain what each part and each syllable and each letter means. So, Sutra number 28, this mantra, the Tira mantra, Om Namo Narayanaya, has 8 holy syllables and 3 words. Right? So 3 words are Om, Namo, which is sometimes called Namaha or Namas, right? Namo, with the Sandhi conjunction, the Namaha becomes Namo. So Om, Namo, and Narayanaya. These are the 3 words. It has 8 syllables. What are the 8 syllables? Om, Na, Mo, Na, Rai, Ya, Nai, Ya. 8 syllables. Okay. As it is said, Om is 1 syllable. Namaha is 2 syllables. And Narayanaya has 5 syllables. This is the 8th syllable of the Astakshara mantra in Gayatri Mitra. So in the Upanishad, Narayana Upanishad, it says, Om iti ekaksharam namiti dvayakshare narayanayeti pancha one should pronounce Om in the beginning, then Namaha, and after that Narayanaya. Right? That's another quote. It's another quote from another scripture. So, therefore, he says it has 8 syllables and 3 words. When referring to it having 8 syllables, the Shruti cited above says that Om or Pranava is 1 syllable, Namaha is 2 syllables, Narayana is 5 syllables. There are some who separate the word Nara from the compound word Narayana, right? There's a word Nara. Nara means a man or a human being, right? Person. And Ayana is also another word, right? Which has several meanings, right? So Narayanaya can be also a compound word, which is cut in 2. And in that way, if we cut that into 2, we can say there's 4 words, right? But that's only if we try to understand the word Nara in Narayana. Okay? If we break the compound word Nara and Ayana, Nara, Ayanaya, Nara and Ayanaya, right? If we break that up, we get 2, Nara and Ayanaya. That would be 4 and 2 is 6. That would make it 6, Narayanaya. So there are some who separate the word Nara from the compound word Narayana or Narayanaya to make 6 syllables, Narayanaya. So does everybody understand that? And claim that it is 8 syllables without the pranava. Okay? So there are some people who maybe including some Wadagalais, I'm not sure, the Wadagalais try to say that some people are not qualified to chant the Omkara. So then the people on the other side of that argument will say, but in the Vedas, it comes with the Omkara. The mantra is said to be 8 syllables and it comes with the Omkara. So you should, in the Vedas, it says you should chant the 8-syllable mantra. So then somebody will say, well, it could be 8 syllables even without, we could consider it 8 syllables even without the Omkara. So just Namo Narayanaya could be considered 8 syllables. Really? Well, Namo is obviously only 2 syllables. So how do we explain Narayanaya to be not 5 syllables, but 6 syllables? So here is an explanation. So they go to some fancy explanation. They say, well, if you cut Narayanaya into 2 and say Nara Ayanaya, then you've got Nara Ayanaya. That's 2 plus 4, 6. That's 6. If we cut it up, we can say it's 6. We can consider it 6, right? Of course, it's not 6, but these people make an argument that it could be understood to be 6 by cutting it like that. So that's their argument. But according to this or that position is not Vedic and ought to be rejected. So very clearly here, Ilalokacharya in his sutra, what's the sutra again? This mantra is 8 syllables, not 9. It's 8 syllables because Narayanaya is not 6 syllables, it's 5 syllables. And Namo is obviously 2 syllables and Om is only 1 syllable. So therefore it is only 8 syllables. Cannot be considered to be 9 or cannot be considered to be 8 without a stakshara. I mean, without the Omkara. Without Omkara, it can't be considered to be 8. It's not 9 total, and it isn't considered proper to be without Omkara, right? There are 8 syllables. Again, they are Om, Na, Mo, Na, Rai, Ya, Na, Ya. 8 syllables and 3 words, not 4 words, right? Not that we say, oh, Narayana is 2 words. Then we would have Om, 1 word, Namaha, 2 words, and then another 2 words, Narayana, Nara and Ayana. No, we can't count the words like that. We can't count the syllables like that. That is improper way of understanding it, right? The proper way to understand it is according to this sutra, as Pilalokacharya says, there are 8 syllables and 3 words. That's the proper way to understand it. That's the Vedic way to understand it. And Manavala Mahamuni in the commentary here is saying that is the Vedic proposition because it's a Vedic mantra. You can't change the Vedas. You can't misinterpret the Vedas to be more syllables or less syllables or whatever. Therefore, that idea has to be rejected. That has to be rejected, right? So what are the meanings of its three words? This is the question, which he replies, right? Okay, so let's go see what P.B. and Angacharya is saying about this particular. Seems simple enough, but there's an important reason here for making sure that you understand that there are 8 syllables, and there are only 8 syllables. There's 8 syllables, not 9, not 7, right? There's 3 words. There's not 2. There's not 4. There's 3, right? So, okay. So the Tiramantra is made up of 8 aksharas or letters or syllables, right? And 3 parts, 3 words. This sutra shows the number of aksharas, the number of syllables, and the parts that make up the Tiramantra. This will be followed by the explanation of the meanings of these letters and parts. So first of all, what have we got here as a summary? Pilalokacharya, first of all, he says that he gives the greatness, he describes the greatness of the mantra. Second thing he does is he defines the mantra, right? 8 syllables, 3 words, right? And what are they, right? Then he's going to explain in detail each part, each syllable, each word, each letter of the mantra. Some people break up the Tiramantra as follows. They break up Narayanaya into Nara Ayanaya, and then it becomes six syllables. Then they drop the pranava in order to derive 8 syllables. Do you understand? So this is a sneaky way of some people trying to say, no, here's an 8-syllable mantra for you. Take this, but they're not giving the omkara. They're not giving the omkara to some people. They're not giving it to ladies. They're not giving it to sudras, because they say the ladies and the sudras, according to the Smriti Shastras, they shouldn't chant Vedic mantras, and therefore this is a Vedic mantra. We have to take the omkara out of it because omkara is the essence of the Vedas, and that can't be chanted by the sudras and by the mlechas and by the ladies, by the foreigners and the low class people. They can only chant the rest of the mantra. So they let them chant the rest of the mantra. So we'll tell them that this is an 8-syllable mantra, and they'll be happy because it's the 8-syllable mantra. They've heard about the 8-syllable mantra. They want to chant the 8-syllable mantra. So they'll be happy with those 8 syllables. We'll just explain it in a way that they understand that they're getting 8 syllables, just like all the high class Brahmins and twice born males, right? However, as this contradicts Shruti, this contradicts the Veda, right? This is the argument from the Tenacharya Sampradaya, from the southern school of Sri Vaishnavism, against the idea of chanting Namo Narayanaya, against the idea of chanting Namo Narayanaya, against the idea of chanting Namo Narayana. All these different ideas that people come up with. The Shruti, the Narayana Upanishad says, Om Namo Narayana Yeti Mantro Pasakaha Vaikunta Bhuvana Lokam Gamishyati. It says you will go to Vaikunta if you upasaka, worship. Worship means meditate upon the meaning and chant or use in chanting, right? Both things, right? Of this mantra, Om Namo Narayanaya, 8 syllables. These 8 syllables, not any other syllables, not not Namo Narayanaya, not Narayanaya, not. Now, of course, having said that, we just explained Ajamil just chanted Narayana. He didn't chant Om. He didn't chant He didn't chant Namo. And he didn't chant Aya. He only chanted Narayana. He just chanted O Narayana, Narayana. And it still worked for him. Because why? It's so great. The mantra is so great that even if you don't chant it, so we don't have a problem. The Southern school, we don't have a problem with other people. We don't have a problem with the Wadagalais. If they say, they tell their people, you chant Namo Narayana, you chant Namo Narayana, you chant Namo Narayana. Only. They divide people up according to the Smritis, and they say, according to your caste, according to your gender, you should chant it like this. and they tell people to do that. We don't agree that they should do that because that's against the Vedas. That's not what the Vedas say, right? That's against Shruti. But still, do we agree that those people who are following those rules, those explanations, will still attain Vaikuntha? Yes, of course. Because the mantra is so great that even they murder it, even they cut it up into and take off Omkara and put it on something else and count the syllables wrong, count the words as 4, count the syllables of Narayana as 6, count it as 8 syllables without Omkara. Even though they say all those things, even though they do give different ones for different people like that, even though those people, those different people, the ladies and the Sudras and the foreigners chanted in a different way, still they're going to attain the result. So they're still going to attain the result. So ultimately, we have no real quarrel. We don't have a quarrel with that with the Watergalize. They're also going to attain liberation. That's the point. But from our understanding, if you want our understanding, you have to follow the understanding of the Vedas. And the Vedas say 8 syllables, 3 words. And these are the syllables. Not but Om. Om Namo Narayanaya. These are the syllables. This is what's mentioned in the Veda. You can't change the Veda, right? You can't give something else. You can't say something else. You can't count syllables in a different way. You can't count words in a different way. This is the way it is, according to the Veda. You either accept that or you don't accept that. The Tenacharya Sampradaya, the Sri Sampradaya from the Southern school, accepts that. The other school, they look at other scriptures which are lower than the Vedas. Those scriptures are Shmiti scriptures, and they say women shouldn't chant this, Sudra shouldn't chant this, foreigners shouldn't chant this. They look at these other lower scriptures which have to do with the society, with Vanashram, like that, and they think these social rules overcome the rule of scripture, the rule of the Vedas. The rule of the Vedas is as it is. The other scriptures are lower scriptures. We can only accept their rules if they are not against what the Vedas say. In this case, those lower rules go against what the original Vedas say. So we have to take the word of the original Vedas over those other rules. That's what the Southern schools say. So it's just a matter of which scripture you give more emphasis to, which scripture you give more prominence to. We always give more prominence to the Vedas. We're giving more prominence to the Vedas. The Vedas say, Om Namo Narayanaya iti mantra pasaka Vaikuntha bhuvanalokam gamishati, the Narayana Upanishad. It directly says that. So that's what we give. That's what we use. That's what we meditate on. That's what we discuss. That's the meaning. The meaning of that is what we want to talk about. If you give more importance to the Vanashram and the social rules, then you have to divide people, and you have to say, well, men over here, women over there, foreigners over here, Sudras over here, and everybody gets a different mantra or a different explanation, and everybody therefore has to chant a little bit differently. But yes, everybody will go to Vaikuntha. So we agree with the Watergalize. Yes, everybody will go to Vaikuntha. All these people will go to Vaikuntha, even though you're telling them something which is against what it says in the Vedas, because you emphasize the Shmiti Shastras. Yes, they'll go to Vaikuntha. At the same time, we don't agree with the way that you analyze it. So it's your analysis which we disagree with. We disagree with your analysis, and we disagree with your implementation. We disagree with your doctrine, and we disagree with your practice. Does your practice lead to the goal? Yes. We don't disagree that you will go to Vaikuntha. Why? Because of the greatness of the Astakshara mantra overcomes all these faults. Completely overcomes all these faults. Therefore, it's not a problem. So we just say it's inappropriate to think of the Astakshara mantra like this, to explain it like this, right? And it's inappropriate to tell others that it's like this. and but it still will work. It still will work. So let's go back and look at Sutra 29. Continuing on. Now that we've defined it. We've defined it very clearly. Okay, so now we've understood that there are 8 syllables. We know what the 8 syllables are, and there are 3 words. So the 3 words state 3 meanings. The 3 words state 3 meanings. He states these meanings very clearly. Let's look at Sutra 30 before we look at Pibhinangacharya. These are, what are the 3 meanings of the 3 words? There are 3 meanings of the 3 words. There's a meaning for each word. These are subservience, sheshatva, dependence, paratantra, and kainkarya, service. So, subservience, dependence, and service. The meaning of this mantra as a whole, the Vakyartha, which we just discussed, was previously said to be the soul's essential nature, swarupa, and the goal, prapya, in accord with that essential nature. That was the first meaning given of the 2 meanings in Sutra number 26. What was said previously in Sutra number 26 has to be recalled here, right? Okay, so let's look and see what Pibhinangacharya says for 29 and 30. So the 3 parts of the Tiramantra: Pranava, meaning Omkara, Namaha or Namo, and Narayanaya show 3 meanings. The 3 meanings previously talked about in Sutra 26 are mentioned again as a prelude for further explanation to their meanings. And the 3 meanings are Sheshatvam, which means subservience, right? Which is defined by the Pranava or the Omkara. The Paratantram, which means total dependence, absolute dependence, subservience, first of all, unto Sriman Narayana, total dependence on Sriman Narayana, right? Paratantra is defined by the word Namaha or Namo, and Kainkarya or service is defined by Narayanaya. So very simple to summarize again. We've got 3 words: Om, Namo, Narayanaya. Om, subservience. Namo, complete dependence. Narayanaya, service to the Supreme Lord. That's what it means. The 3 meanings are being enslaved to the Lord, having no other refuge but Him, and the eternal service of His lotus feet. Om, being enslaved to the Lord. Namo, having no other refuge but Him. Narayanaya, eternal service at His lotus feet, specifically Lord Narayana, unto Lord Narayana. Sheshatvam and Paratantram, or subservience and complete dependence, right, together define the nature of the jiva. Right, the first 2 words, Om and Namo, right, which explain subservience and complete dependence, they define the swarupa or the essence of the jiva. And Kainkarya, or the 3rd word, Narayanaya, defines the goal to be sought, the goal to be sought after. This is the meaning of Sarupamum. Anyway, that's what the 26th Sutra has brought this out. So if we go back. So, which is the first amongst the 3 words? So now that we explained that, we explained very simply. Okay, first of all, what did we do? Let's recap. We explained the whole mantra as it is in 2 ways. Next thing we're doing is we're describing what each word means of the 3 words. Now we're going to start talking about what each word means in detail. So the first word, right, to this he says the pranava is the first word in this mantra. The Shruti or the Vedas say Om should be pronounced in the beginning, right? So it's very common in Vedic mantras that we start off with the syllable Om, the transcendental syllable. Any Vedic mantra you can start, and a lot of classical mantras, they also, before reciting a mantra, you start with the Om, Omkar, that gives power to the mantra, right? It's a very powerful syllable, Omkar, Shruti, Pranava, it's called. In addition, the Shmriti says, to explain this, to explain what the Shruti says, what the Shruti means the Vedas, the Shmriti means the Puranas, Itihasas, Pancharatras, other scriptures which are not the Vedas. Vedas means the Upanishads and the Samhitas and the Brahmanas and the Aranyakas. Vedic. So the Smriti Shastras explain the Vedas. So there's a statement in the Vedas that Om should be pronounced in the beginning. And normally when we start off, we say Om or we say Hari Om. Sometimes we say Hari Om. Hari Om. So Hari means O Hari, O Lord Hari, O the Supreme Lord. And Hari is the name of Sriman Narayana. Right? So we don't say, some people, they have this weird idea. They say Hara Om. Nobody says that. The Shaivites say that. The word Hara means Shiva. Right? So the Shaivites, sometimes they say, oh, Hara Om. We should say Hara Om. Nobody ever says Hara Om. Okay? So everybody agrees, all the Vedic scholars, you can look at the Mayavadis, the Advaitins, the Madhvas, all the different people who study the Vedas and who chant the Vedas. Everybody, when they start, they chant. They start Harihi Om, showing that Om is addressing Lord Hari. The Smriti Shastra is explaining and elaborating on the Smriti. And like I said, people say Harihi Om, showing that Om means, oh my Lord, but who is it addressed to? It's addressed to Lord Hari, which is Sriman Narayana. So some people say, oh, Om means anything. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Durgaya, Om, we say Om before all these things. But Om, it means, oh my Lord, and it means it's a way of addressing the Supreme. And these other devatas, Durga and Shiva and whatever, they're not supreme. That is why we say Harihi Om. That is why we always say Harihi Om. It's to Lord Hari, to Sriman Narayana, Om. And here he's saying the Shruti starts in the beginning of every recitation. We say Om. We say Om. So it's only natural that, and actually, if you look, interesting thing is, if you ever are talking to people who are worshippers of Shiva or Durga or whatever, that the Shiva mantra, the mantra for Shiva, is Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya. That's 5 syllables. Ask him. It's Panchakshara mantra. Panchakshara mantra, 5 syllables. Namah Shivaya. Not 5 syllables. Right? You'll hear people saying Om Namah Shivaya. No. If you look in the Vedas, it says only Namah Shivaya. It never says Om Namah Shivaya. Look in the Vedas, the way it's stated the way the mantra for Narayana is stated is Om Namo Narayanaya. The way the mantra for Shiva is stated is Namah Shivaya. No Om. There's no Om. So some people, they put an Om on there. They put an Om on there, but it's not right. It's not correct. It's not there in the Vedas. It is Namah Shivaya, like that. Om indicates, Harihi Om indicates to Sriman Narayana, and only to Sriman Narayana. Now, further explanation of that is in the Shmriti. It says this. In the Shmriti Shastra, it says about Om being in the beginning. The Pranava first, Namaha in the middle, and Narayana last. One should know this 8-syllable mantra, which can accomplish everything for men meaning for everybody. After this, in order of giving the meaning of the Pranava, he states that it is composed of 3 letters. Here it says syllables, but it means letters, 3 letters. So Pranava is described or the Omkara, is described in the Narayana Upanishad as being made up of A, U, and Ma. Akara, Ukara, Makara, Iti. Omkara is made of Akara, Ukara, Makara, Iti. Kara means letter. The letter A, the letter U, and the letter M makes up Om. This pranava is made of 3 syllables, A, U, and M. This pranava, in its expanded form, exhibits three syllables or letters, 3 words, and 3 meanings. In its contracted form, it exhibits 1 syllable, 1 word, and 1 meaning. Using an analogy, he reveals how it originally came to have 3 syllables. So first, the meaning of the sutra again, 31. Amongst the 3 parts of Tiramantra, the first part is the pranava. Right, so we already described that there are 3 words in the Om Namo Narayana mantra. First part is Om. So let's just talk about Om. The commentary here, he says Om, which is the pranava, is the first part of the Tiramantra. There are some who use Am instead of Om to make up the Astakshara mantra. They don't want to give people Om because they say, oh, you Sudras, you Mlechas, you foreigners, you low-caste people, and you ladies are not allowed to chant Om because there are some rules in the Smriti Shastras, like Manusmriti and different things, that there are some lower rules that say that you shouldn't chant those things. So therefore, we're going to give you another syllable because we know that you want 8 syllables. You want an 8-syllable mantra, so we're going to give you another syllable, but we're not going to give you Om. We're going to give you Am instead. So he says here, this P.B. Anangacharya was a Tengalai, but he was a very great scholar in Kanchipuram. So he says, please perhaps to correct them, Sri Pila Lokacharya is explicitly stating that the pranava is the first part. So this definition, this sutra number 31, you can just quote to somebody. Mumuksupadi, sutra number, first part, Tiramantra Prakaranam, sutra number 31, says that amongst the 3 parts of the Tiramantra, the first part, amongst the 3 parts means the three words of Tiramantra, the first part is a pranava. It's not Am, it's Om. It's always Om, right? And Pila Lokacharya is explicitly saying here that the first part is Om, not Am, not anything else. The reason he says pranavam instead of Om is because the mantra itself has to be received through an acharya, through upadesham. So Pila Lokacharya is being very careful with the etiquette here. He's realizing that maybe somebody reads this who hasn't taken initiation. So he simply refers to Omkara as pranava. He says pranava here, like that, because he believes that the proper etiquette is to receive the mantra from an acharya. In these days, we're even Ramanuja transgressed this etiquette. His guru told him, Goshtipurna told him, don't tell this mantra to everybody. Don't tell everybody this mantra. People have to be considered worthy of this mantra to give them this mantra. But he instead went and he climbed the Gopuram in Tirukostiur and he gathered a crowd around him and he told the mantra to everyone. That was his mercy upon everybody to do that. But here, Pila Lokacharya, when he's writing the book, he is in Sri Rangam, and there are some people in Sri Rangam who are following Vedanta Deshika, and they're very worried about caste rules and regulations given in the Varnashram system in Smriti. Yeah, Pila Lokacharya was considered this book was considered radical in the time it was written. Right, his brother had to write another book like we say with Srivachana Bhushanam and Pila Kacharya's Mumuksupadi, these some of the ideas in here were considered radical by some very conservative Brahmins amongst the Sri Vaishnavas in Sri Rangam, like Vedanta Deshika and other people. And therefore, he wanted to explicitly say to them, look, the Shruti in the Vedas, it says, Om Namo Narayanaya iti mantra upasakaha. It says it clearly. The first part of it is the pranava. The first word is Omkara. But he also wanted to be very careful of etiquette and not to write anything in the book, right, that would seem to be out of step with etiquette. So to give the actual mantra, Om Namo Narayanaya, at that time, right, even to write it in his book was considered to be out of etiquette, although he indicated by saying pranava that Omkara comes first, it's the first word. But he left it up to the individual acharya to instruct their disciples on that pranava. So his meaning here was, acharyas, you should be instructing your disciples on the Astakshara mantra, which begins with pranava. That was his point. And he explicitly says it here in Sutra number 31. Against what all the conservative people, there were some conservative people who didn't agree with that, like Vedanta Deshika and whatever, who later on started the Vadagalai school, where they segregate people and give them different mantras according to their caste and their sex, their gender. So he specifically wrote this sutra for them. He's trying to correct them, to tell them this is not the Vedic way. This is not the way the mantra is given in the Vedas. This is against the Shruti to do this. The Shmiti has some rules, but we have to follow the Shruti above the rules of the Shmiti. The rules of the Shmiti are secondary when it comes to the Shruti. If there are two Smritis, if there's two Puranas and two rules in two different Puranas, or Pancharatra and Puranas, that's okay. Then we have to decide on which one is more important. But there's no argument that the Shruti, the Vedas, the Vedic rule supersedes the Shmiti rule. No doubt. So continuing on with 32. So then he says, right, which backs it up. He's going to talk about the first word of the Tiramantra. First, he says it has to be pranava, it has to be Omkara. Second of all, that pranava is made up of three aksharas, or three letters, A, U, and M. The pranava is a combination of three aksharas, A, U, and M. The letters A, U, and M. Here, the aksharas that make up the pranava are shown separately. We usually, when we write Om, we just write OM. That O is if we split the O, right, we get A and U. A and U put together in Sanskrit Sandhi become O, right? And the M, when we add it together with that, right, becomes Om. The akara, or the letter A, the ukara, the letter U, combine by grammatical rules to form O, the letter O. And therefore, the pranava is made up of A, U, and M. The Shruti, or the Vedas, show that Om iti ekaksharam. Om iti ekaksharam means that the pranava is one akshara, it's one syllable. Is one syllable, ekaksharam, one syllable. Eka means one. So Om iti, Om is thus one syllable. That's what it says in the Upanishad. So how can we say that is made up of three aksharas, right? So there's a question. We're now going to say, we're going to split up Om into three parts, and we're going to define each part like it's a word. It's really only a letter, right? There are these three letters, and they go together to make one word. But when we break the word up into three things, we're going to give a meaning for A, a meaning for U, and a meaning for M, a meaning for these three letters. There are two rules to consider here. One rule is called samitikaram. Samitikaram means combination. And the other is called asamitikaram, or non-combination, or splitting. Right? The akaram, or the letter A, that is formed using the combination of rules of sandhi, or combination, right, is called the akara that is formed using the rules of sandhi is called samitakaram. And the akaram which is not formed with the combination of rules is called asamitakaram. Using asamitakaram, or non-combination, the pranava is made up of three parts. Each letter is a part and gives three meanings. When samitakaram, or combination, is used, the pranava is one letter. So considering it to be three letters, and consider if you, by the rules of what we call asamitakaram, or non-combination, we can split it into three parts. Using the rules of combination, we can make it all into one letter. Right? In either case, we can give meanings to the three parts and meanings to the whole part. Right? So when samitikaram combination is used, the pranava is one letter making one part and has one meaning. So the Shruti statement in the Upanishad that says Om iti ekaksharam, right? Om iti ekaksharam means that Om is one syllable, or one letter, right? Is based on samitikaram. But we're also going to explain it now according to not just a combination, but according to non-combination. So this pranava has three syllables: letter A, letter U, and letter M. This pranava is expanded. In its expanded form, exhibits three syllables, three words, and three meanings. In its contracted form, three syllables, three words, and three meanings. In its contracted form, it exhibits one syllable, one word, and one meaning. Using an analogy, he reveals how it originally came to have three syllables. So he's going to explain this, how somebody might ask the question, how is it that you take Om, which is really one syllable, Om, and you break it up into three parts? How can you do that? So he says these three syllables are obtained from the three Vedas, right? So anybody that knows anything about the Vedas is that originally the Vedas, or the Veda, what does Veda mean? Veda means knowledge, and it's considered to be the original knowledge coming from the Supreme, right? And it's eternal knowledge. And it was originally all one thing, called the Ekayana Shaka of the Veda. Ekayana Shaka means the single branch of the Veda. There was one single branch of knowledge. And that was seen in the meditation of different Vedic rishis in the Satyuga in the ancient times. The rishis sat and they meditated, and the different Vedic mantras came to them in their meditation. And we know that there are different seers for Vedic mantras. There are different rishis for each mantra, which we remember when we do the Rishi Adinyasa at the beginning of chanting them, before we chant a Vedic mantra. Those seers are the ones who saw those. They're called mantra drastas, the ones who saw the mantras in their meditation, understood them. They heard them in their mind in meditation. They're eternal mantras. They're apurusheya. They're not created or authored by any human being or any person, right? And these Vedas were all one branch at one time, Ekayana Shaka. Then later on, what happened was Veda Vyasa came. Vyasa means compiler. Veda means of that knowledge. The compiler of that knowledge came. And in order to make them more accessible to people, he split them up into 4. The Rig Veda, the Yajur Veda, the Sama Veda, and the Atharva Veda. Now, the Atharva Veda seems to be have come later, but sometimes in some of the scriptures we read of only three: the Rig Veda, the Yajur Veda, and the Sama Veda. So here it's mentioned that there are three Vedas. So when it mentions 3 Vedas, it means Rig, Yajus, and Sama. When it says 4 Vedas, it means Rig, Yajus, Sama, and Atharva. Atharva is not very much used or chanted anymore. There's maybe 1 or 2 Gurukulas in India that teach Atharva Veda. But mostly we have Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, and Sama Veda. These are the most important Vedas. Right. So these, what he says is that the letter A, the letter U, and the letter M come from the Rig Veda, the Yajur Veda, and the Sama Veda. And they represent those Vedas. These 3 syllables, or these 3 letters, are obtained from the 3 Vedas, right? 1 from each Veda. Just as one might churn curds in 3 pots and collect butter. So when you've got a lot of milk, the way they make ghee in India is that they get milk from the cow, and then they make the milk into yogurt. They make the milk into curd, what they call curd or yogurt, right? And then they take the curd and they churn it in a butter churn. And after churning it for some time, that curd turns into ghee. Turns into the milk fat comes out and it turns into ghee. So to create the butter, you create the butter out of churning of the yogurt. So what he's saying here is the analogy he's giving is that these 3 letters representing the 3 Vedas, they're like when you get some milk and you have a lot of milk, and you divide it into 3, and you put it in 3 butter churns, and you churn all 3, right? After you finish churning all 3, you've got 3 butter churns full of butter. Then you can combine the butter again. But you also have butter from this churn, butter from that churn, and butter from the other churn before you can combine them again. As it is said in the Shruti and the Smriti. So it's said in both Shruti, in the Vedas, and also in the Smriti Shastras. Bhuhu arose from the Rig Veda. Bhuvaha arose from the Yajur Veda. Suvaha arose from the Sama Veda. These pure ones were melted, and from those well-melted 3, the syllables, or varnas, the word varna means syllable, were born. Letter A, the letter U, and the letter M. When they were put together, they became Om. Okay, so there are also these words in Sanskrit called Vyahritis. The Vyahritis are 7 in number. They represent 7 planetary systems in the universe. But you can also think of the universe in 3 levels: higher, lower, and middle. And there's also many other esoteric meanings to higher, lower, and middle. But so when we talk about lower, we talk about bhu, earthly. When we talk about higher, we talk about bhuva, right? And we talk about suvaha. We talk even higher. So 3 levels. So 3 levels: bhur, bhuva, suvaha, right? So these are called Vyariti mantras. Okay, so they say from that Bhuhu is a Vyariti which represents the Rig Veda. Bhuvaha arose from or represents the Yajur Veda. Suvaha represents the Sama Veda. In North India, in the North Indian tradition, in the Shukla Yajur Veda, in the Rig Veda in North India, they say Sva instead of Suvaha. In South India, especially in the Krishna Yajur Veda, right? And this Smriti is probably from Taittiriya Aranyaka or Taittiriya Upanishad, right? From Bhuva comes the Rig Veda. From Bhuvaha, Bhuvaha comes from the Yajur Veda. Bu comes from the Rig Veda, Bhuvaha comes from the Yajurveda, Suvaha comes from the Sama Veda. If we put all these together, right? If we churn these Vyahritis, we get these three letters: letter A, letter U, and letter M. We take those three letters and put them together. We get Omkara. In this way, Om is considered to be the essence of the Vedas, of the three Vedas. Prajapati extracted from the three Vedas A, U, and Ma, and also Bhurbhava Swa. Here he says Swa, it could be Suvaha or Swa, same thing, right? So this is also an explanation of the Vyahritis. It's also an explanation of where the syllables where the letters A, U, and M came from and how they were put together to make Om. Thus the Lord of all brought forth from the three Vedas the three sacred syllables, Bhur, Bhuvaha, Swa, Suvaha, right? He melted them till they flowed like molten gold, right? The analogy is like churning them until they became ghee, and ghee is molten golden in color. And by his will caused the three syllables, the extracted syllables, to be, or letters to be letter U, and letter M to appear from them. In this way, the Lord extracted them. With this in mind, Pila Lokacharya compares this to churning curds in three separate pots, which are put together and putting together the butter, which is their essence. So, as I said, you get a whole lot of milk, which is originally one thing, but you want to make the essence of it. The essence of the milk is ghee. So you turn it into yogurt, put it in three pots, churn those three pots, three butter churns, and you get butter or ghee. And then you can once you have butter in all those three pots, you put the butter back together again. You have all the three pots worth of butter, but you have to separate it out because it's too much milk, or too much. In this case, we're talking about too much knowledge in the Vedas, and therefore it was separated out by Veda Vyasa. Then each Veda had its essence taken out, and the essence of each Veda was combined, and therefore we get the Omkara. He reveals the outcome of this. Okay, therefore this pranava is the essence of all the Vedas. So we'll see that in a second. Let's have a look at Sutra 33 in E.B. Anangacharya's version. Okay, so the meaning again is this is Pila Lokacharya's analogy to understand how Omkara came from the Vedas and how it's the essence of the Vedas. This is like collecting buttermilk in three vessels and extracting butter from them. The essence of the Vedas, the essence of the three Vedas has been extracted in the form of the three aksharas or three letters, A, U, and M. Therefore, the pranavam is the essence of all the Vedas. It's the essence of all the Vedas. So previously it was said that according to Samhita Akaram, or combination, according to the system of combination of letters, you can explain that the Shruti, the Vedas say that Om is only one letter or one syllable, right? According to the rules of putting A and U together with M, you end up with Om, which is just one syllable, right? While according to the non-combination or splitting system, we can break up the pranava or the Omkara into letter A, letter U, and letter M. In the use of is the use of breaking up acceptable? Is the use of asamitakaram, system of breaking Omkara up into three sections, is that acceptable? As it goes against the Shruti. That's the point here. The point here is that he's going to talk about the different parts of Omkara, but in the Upanishad it says that Omkara doesn't have any parts. It's one thing. So that's the reason why he's going through this whole explanation to explain it, right? So he's explaining that there's a way of thinking of it as one thing, and that's what the way that we read it in the Shruti. But it's not wrong to think of it as three different things also, because there are these different systems of putting things together and taking things apart, right? It's not that it's wrong, like he was explaining before. It's wrong to think that it should be Am or it shouldn't be there. That's wrong, because that goes directly against what the Shruti says. The Vedas actually say that the first word has to be Om in the Astakshara mantra. So if you say Namaha is the first word, or if you say Am is the first word, that's wrong. Pranava has to be, Omkar has to be the first word. But then there is this idea of understanding in the Shastra. It says that Om is just one syllable. Well, if it's just one syllable, then what right do you have to do is to break it apart and to say that each part means something different? Well, he says, the reason I say that is because there are these two systems. There's a system in grammar of putting things together, Sandhi, and there's another system of breaking things apart. And by those both systems, it's possible to understand Omkara. So, yes, the Shruti says Omkara is only one syllable. Yes, we admit it's only one syllable, it's only one divine letter. But also, looking at it from another point of view, grammatically, we can break it apart as well, and we can also understand its different parts. So that's why he says that is legitimate. He says the aksharas. So the question is it legitimate, or does that go against the Shruti? Because we saw the Vadagalais went against Shruti before, and they said, no, you don't have to always give Om in the beginning of this mantra. You can give Am, or you can just give Namo in the beginning of the mantra. But he says, no, you can't do that. That's illegitimate. But here, it's legitimate to have two different understandings of Om, that it's one syllable and it's also can be broken into three. And he explains why. Here he has shown that the Shrutis accept the breaking up of pranava into three aksharas, and that the three aksharas are the essence of the three Vedas. So the Vadagalais or some other person could say, well, okay, you made this argument that we have to put Om and we can't put Am, and we can't start the mantra with Namaha. All right, so if we accept that, but now you're saying that we have to accept that because in the Shruti, in the Upanishad, it says Om Namo Narayana iti mantra pasaka. Okay, so we'll accept it. We'll accept everything according to Shruti. And then the very next step, you Tengalais say, that we can now break up Om into three things. It's not that the Vadagalais don't break it Om up into three sections. They also do, okay? But anyway, there may be somebody out there who said, oh, you're so interested in following the Shruti, or always following the Vedic thing above everything else. But here, the Vedas say, Om ite aksharam. Om is one thing. And now you propose to divide it into three. How can you do that? That's against Shruti. Right? To that, he says, no, it's not against Shruti, because I'm going to give you quotations from Shruti and Smriti, both, that say that you can do that. And here he says, right, the aksharas are made up of the pranava, letter A, letter U, and letter M. They arise out of the Rig, Yajus, and Sama Vedas. And he quoted from the Taittiriya Aranyaka, or the Taittiriya Upanishad, to explain that. So he's quoted from another part of the Shrutis, not from Narayana Upanishad, but from another part of the Shrutis, which is equal pramana, right, to prove that. So that is legitimate. It's legitimate to see Omkara as one thing and three things also. So these arise out of the Rig, Yajus, and Sama Vedas. From these three Vedas come Bhur, Bhuva, Suvaha, the three great Vyahritis, right? Exactly the translation of Vyahriti is difficult to say, but maybe I can look it up and give a better definition of it. But a Vyahriti is this sacred syllable also from the Vedas, right? Which were created and run by him. And he stood within them and created these three aksharas. Therefore, this is bringing out the essence of the Vedas, just as you bring out butter which is the essence of, here it says buttermilk, but it means curds or yogurt, right? Are the Shrutis in support of this? There are. And he gives examples of Shrutis, of quotations from the Vedas and also from the Shrutis that agree with this. So in the next section, he's going to speak about, therefore, he's going to explain that therefore the pranava is the essence of all the Vedas. So this is going to be a little bit more extensive here. So I think we'll come back to this sutra, right? And we'll stop it here and we'll just ask, there were some technical issues here about how to break up the mantras, giving different meanings to the whole. First of all, let's summarize, okay? Today we talked about two meanings for the whole Tiramantra, right? Vyakyarta, the whole mantra given in two meanings, right? Then we talked about the definition of the mantra, right? It is 8 syllables. It is 3 words, right? Then we talked about the fact that it must start with the Omkara, right? Then we talked about the Omkara can be split into 3, right? But it can also be understood as being one thing, right? So there was a lot of technical stuff here, right? But if there were any questions or any comments about today or any other part of Mumuksupadi, because I think we probably want to leave it here because it's getting a little bit late in Europe.
Not for me, Swami. Really nice.
Yeah, it was very nice.
It's getting very technical. It's getting very technical. Yeah.
But what I saw in the word, in the syllable om, it is one, but at the same time it has differences. So it's like Vishishtha Dvaita.
That's a very, very good analysis there. What you just said is an excellent realization. An excellent realization.
Thank you. Vishishtha Dvaita in the syllable om. Yeah. The essence of reality is Vishishtha Dvaita. Yeah.
Even when the Buddhists, even when people chant om, a lot of people, when they chant om very slowly, they'll chant
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You start out the back of the throat because the letter A is guttural. So it's pronounced in the throat, right? So you start U is in the front, is a labial. And M can only be pronounced when the lips are actually touching.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're going from the back to the front, and it encompasses all the sounds because you're going from the furthest the place in the back of the throat, the furthest back that you can pronounce, to the furthest forward, and including also the nasal passages in the vibration, because later, actually, in the Vedas, it's very interesting. Omkara is discussed in the Upanishads quite a lot, not just Om Namo Narayana, but the Omkara itself. And like we were discussing with Dr. Alwar in his last class also, the question came, why is Om Namo Narayana, if everything is in Omkara, which we're going to see, everything is actually there in Omkara as well. The meaning in Omkara is enough, right? But why do we add Namo Narayana? Why do we add Namo Narayana? We do that because it's an elaboration and it makes it easier for us to understand. But actually, we can understand everything in Omkara just by itself. So all those things are in Omkara by themselves. So we could, if people want to know more about Omkara, we could go and look there are many, many descriptions in the Upanishads and also in the other scriptures too, Shmiti Shastras, of the meaning of Omkara too. So Omkara is a very transcendental, fantastic syllable. And we're just getting into the meaning of Omkara here now, which will be the first part of understanding of the parts of the Astakshara mantra. But I really appreciate what you said, that it's like, because it's the Akara is going to be explained to be equal to Lord Narayana, and the Makara, the M is, the A is Narayana, the M is the Jivas, and the U is like can be understood to be Lakshmi, can also be understood to be Upaya, different things. So everything can be understood like that. Everything can be understood from the Omkara.
Okay, thank you.
I do. I really appreciate you saying that. It's like Vishishtadvaita, like the parts and the whole.
Right.
Yeah. So when in Shruti, just to elaborate what you said, right? In Shruti it says Omite Aksharam. So that's the whole being expressed. That Om is one thing. This world is one thing. This world, the souls, and God are all one thing. That is panentheism. That is what panentheism means. All in God. So all in Om. Everything is in Om. God's in Om. The souls are in Om. The world is in Om. Everything's in Om. So panentheism, which is Ramanuja's system, is a type of panentheism. Actually, even Gaudiya Vaishnavism, there are many, many other religions which include panentheism. They're basically panentheism, but they've got slightly different details. Panentheism is not pantheism. It's not the worship of nature, right? In pantheism, they say, oh, there's a tree, there's a god of the tree, and a god of the stone, a god of the mountain, and a god of the cloud, like that. That's pantheism. But panentheism, the word en in Latin means in, an or in, or in Greek, panentheism. So pan means all. Theism, theos means God. So panentheism means God in all. God is within everything. And as we know from our discussion of Vyapaka mantras, God is pervading everything from outside and from inside. So from outside, Vasudeva, he is pervading everything. So the idea of Shariri Bhava of Ramanuja is that the souls and the universe are like the body of God. God is like the soul of we are like the body. We and the universe are like the body of God, right? And so this is Ramanuja's idea, Shariri Bhava, to explain the relationship between the three principles of God, the souls, and the universe, Ishvara, Chit, and Achit. So very good. That's a really good understanding. A very nice point. I really appreciate that. Can I ask how can we meditate on Ukara to mean that we are not enslaved by anyone else, but yet still it means Lakshmi? How can these two meditations correlate? Okay, so there's different ways of meditating on the different parts. So for instance, he explained himself here that the whole Om Namo Narayanaya mantra, if we take the whole mantra, it has two different meanings, different ways of understanding it. So just to recap, one of the meanings was Om Namo explains the essential nature of the jiva, and Narayanaya explains the goal, the means or the goal. The means and the goal. And then the other way is to understand Om as meaning the Swarupa of the jiva, Namaha meaning the means, and Narayana meaning the goal. So there's different ways of breaking things up. And you don't be confused. It's very difficult to hold two different conceptions in the mind at the same time. Sometimes we say, okay, if there's two different conceptions in the mind at the same time, in English we sometimes call that cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance means that contradictory ideas in the mind at the same time. These are not contradictory ideas. These are just different ways of understanding that particular thing. So we shouldn't try we don't always have to try to see them as being relevant in the same meditation. So we can meditate upon the Ukara as meaning something, And then another time we can meditate on the ukaras meaning something else like that. But both those meanings are there, but we don't have to reconcile the fact that there's different meanings of different things. Just like here, he gave two meanings for the full mantra. So which one is it? Well, it's both. Both meanings are acceptable. Just like we're going, both meanings are acceptable. Both meanings are accepted, right? So there may be. It's not that there's just one way to meditate upon the Astakshara mantra. It has many deeper meanings. Okay, so just like we say, there's some people they're meditating upon the Astakshara mantra and they're thinking it means something very simple. And then later on, there's people who get more and more deep into the meanings. And it's not that the simple meaning is wrong, but there's other meanings that are there, and any meaning which is correct meaning can be understood. This was a very good class because, or discussion, because we came upon this quote, this sutra number 31, where he says specifically, the Shruti says that Omkara has to come in the beginning of the mantra. And you can see that there are some people who say, no, it's not that the Vadagalai Sampradaya, it's not that the people who follow Vedanta Deshika, they say they don't believe that the Narayana Upanishad says Om Namo Narayana iti mantrapasaka. They believe that. They accept that as a Shruti. They just say, okay, it says that in the Shruti, but we have another rule over here in the Shmiti that says these certain people, the ladies and the Sudras and the Mlechas, the foreigners, they can't chant that syllable. So therefore we have to think of some way to adjust that mantra that's in the Vedas. But our point, the Southern School, the Tenacharya Sampradaya point, is no, we shouldn't adjust the Shruti for the Shmiti. We have to neglect the Shmiti if it tries to adjust the Shruti. So this was a good discussion because there was that came in Sutra number 31, but in 33 and 34, we also understood that the Omkara could be broken apart. It could be considered one. It can also be considered three. So which one is it? Is it one or is it three? The Shruti says it's one, but according to some other understanding, it's three, right? It's both one and it's three, according to different concepts, and both concepts are correct. That's what he's saying, right? So I'm sure Vedanta Deshika says the same thing about Omkar being in the beginning and Amkar being in the beginning, right? But we have our arguments for why Omkara has to come first, and we also have our other arguments as to why we can understand that Om is one and also three. So, but once again, I want to clear all of this up. It doesn't really matter ultimately that the Vadagalais are saying that they don't want to put Omkar at the beginning for Sudras or for ladies or for women or for foreigners, right? Doesn't matter. Why? Because it was stated before this very clearly by Pila Lokacharya that the Astakshara mantra is so great, and I'm sure Vedanta Deshika and the Vadagalais will agree that the Astakshara mantra is so great that even Ajamil chanted without the Om, without the Am, without the Namo even, without the Aya, right? He just chanted Narayana and he still got the same result. So it's so great that even if you do it wrong, you're still going to get the result, right? So, but as a matter of principle, as a matter of doctrine, we should teach the correct doctrine. And the correct doctrine is to follow Shruti over Shmiti, right? If somebody wants to make an argument with you that that Manushmiti is more important than the Vedas, then they can go and join the Vadagalais and be very happy, right? They'll still go to Vaikuntha, okay? But we don't agree with their doctrine. So we do not agree with their doctrine, and therefore we don't agree with their practice. Does it make any difference in the ultimate, you know, to the ultimate goal of everybody? No, because everybody will attain. The Lord will save everybody, right? So does it make any difference if you believe that you're a cat and the mother cat is going to pick up the kitten, or whether you're a monkey, a baby monkey, and you have to hang on to the mother? No, it doesn't make any difference. From the Tangalite point of view,
I like this very liberal view. It's a very liberal view, that we don't agree with the other, we don't agree with them, but still they will attain the goal. That's very liberal. Yeah, it's very nice. I like that.
The same thing. It's the same thing. The same thing it's said here about people who are performing karma yoga, jnana yoga, and bhakti yoga, or they're also chanting Om Namo Narayana, and they'll also attain the same goal. And even the people who are not even doing karma yoga, jnana yoga, and bhakti yoga, they just want some material result. They want dharma, karma, artha. They want sense gratification. They want religiosity. They want they want material gain. They want economic development. If somebody comes to me and says, I want to make a lot of money, I want to have a beautiful wife, and I want to enjoy life, I don't care anything about spiritual life. I'll say to him, Om Namo Narayana, chant this mantra. I'll just tell him that, like that. And if he does it, he'll get that, but he'll also get Vaikuntha. He'll also end up in Vaikuntha.
Yeah, great.
So we don't even care, even you're an atheist, why not chant it? Cover your bases, You don't even if you don't believe in God, here we go. Here's something you can do, even if you don't believe it. If you don't understand the meaning of it, you don't believe in it, you don't chant it properly, you don't follow any of the rules, it's still going to work. Whether you like it or not, it's going to work.
Well, it's a nice first step, that people first get material benefit, because that's what most people desire here in this world, material benefit. And then they get the benefits, and that increases their faith in the mantra. So then when you tell them beyond that, there are higher goals even you can achieve with this mantra. So they will have faith in that, but they have to go step by step, I think. Let people first get material benefits, or let we get all those benefits. That's even better. Huh?
Yeah, it happens in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. You see all the time, people are taking samashrina. They go to a guru and they take initiation and everything like that. And maybe they're just taking initiation. Sometimes some boy, he's a Sri Vaishnava, and he marries a girl who's a smarta. He marries a girl who's from some other, type of Hindu or whatever. And the girl just takes initiation because she married the guy.
Yeah.
She doesn't know anything. She wasn't brought up as a Sri Vaishnava. She doesn't know anything about it. Or sometimes people just take initiation, they get the mantra and everything like that. They don't know anything about it. Later on, maybe they inquire some more and they learn deeper about it, like that. So whether they learn more about it or not, it doesn't matter. It works. It's going to work. Yeah. So it's not. On one hand, we want to preach the correct philosophy. We want to preach the correct doctrine and the correct practices, right? But if people for whatever reason don't want to accept that correct philosophy and accept those correct practices, it doesn't matter. They're still going to get. The Lord is going to take it as an excuse to save them. Oh, they got initiated into Astakshara mantra. They're using Astakshara mantra for something. That's my excuse to save them. Right? Whether they're surrendered or not surrendered or whatever it is, he's just gonna. Yeah, maybe he'll give him riches. Maybe he won't give him riches. That's up to him. But ultimately, the goal will be they'll get moksha. They'll get moksha. We have no doubt about it. We have no doubt about it. All these people who are chanting their mantras and they're not chanting their rounds, or they're not following any rules or regulations, so they're trying to do this or that or the other. They're not succeeding. They're making a mess of it. They're having all problems and like that. But ultimately, that God is going to save them because they're trying. And even if they don't try, even if they're not trying to be liberated, they're trying for something.
Yeah,
they're doing something.
This is a very open-minded view. You know, I like this very much, and I'm sure many Western people also will really appreciate this open-minded approach. You know, view. It doesn't. It sounds very tolerant. You know, very. You know, very accepting.
Even if we, you know, we've been talking about Om Namo Narayana, we've been talking about Astakshara, but again, the Astakshara is only the initial means, like that. So there might be people who are not even interested in anything to do with Sanskrit or anything to do with Indian culture or whatever. If they just try to explain to them the philosophy of panentheism, to explain to them their position in the universe, right? And once they understand their position to be totally dependent upon the Lord, in whatever form they think the Lord is, right? But they're dependent. The God is everything, right? So if you can go to somebody and say, "Look, you're insignificant. The universe is significant. Therefore, there's nothing you can really do to affect the outcome of your existence. So why not surrender to that? Be surrendered unto that." And everything will be okay. And that's all we're basically saying. And you don't have to say that in terms of Indian culture. You don't have to say that in terms of Sanskrit. You don't have to say that in terms of anything like that. For people to understand it, even people who are atheists can understand that idea, the idea of panentheism, that all is in God. Once we think all is in God, the universe is everything, and God is everything, and that we're just a minute part of that, then we become totally dependent upon everything else, which means we're totally dependent on him. And therefore, if we think like that, then we change our mentality. We're changing our mentality from being what it says in the Bhagavad Gita, Ishwaraham Aham Bhogi, I'm supreme, mighty, and independent, and meant to lord it over everything. Okay, once we change that, then our mentality becomes more for the benefit of all others, for the benefit of all other living entities, for the benefit of the universe, for the benefit of the earth, like that. So we become ecologically wise, we become kind and compassionate to all other living beings, like that. And once we do that, basically, you know, God looks at us and sees this person, he'll take that person. He'll even if that person doesn't even believe in God, that person is showing that he understands that this is all the Lord, right? If I'm bigoted, it means I don't understand that other person, you know, I've got something that I have against some other person, you know, like that, because he's not a white man, or he's not a man, or she's not a man, or, you know, there's some bigotry or some racism or some misogyny or something like that. It means that I don't understand that I'm part of the whole, and that person is also part of the whole. That person is my brother or my sister, or like that. Once we understand our relationship to the whole, we understand our relationship to each other. That's why Ramanuja's system is a holistic Vedanta. The whole thing is holistic.
Yeah, holistic Vedanta. That sounds really good.
That's it. Yes.
Holistic Vedanta. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Really good. Yeah,
and
that's a really good name.
You can only have compassion for the universe, for the earth, and for all living beings once you understand your relationship to those things. And that is, first of all, you have to understand that you're part of a whole. Once you understand that you're a part of a whole, and everybody else is a part of the whole, and the earth is a part of the whole, then you can't act against your own self-interest, because you're part of the whole. So to act against the interest of the whole is to act against your own self-interest also. So that you have to understand. When you understand things in a holistic way, then you have to have compassion for everybody else. You have to have compassion for the world. You have to see everything in the terms that Ramanuja is pointing out here, that you're completely dependent and subservient to everything else. So once you understand that, it becomes a universal type of religion. It's totally holistic, totally universal, and totally without any bounds, like that. Once you understand that, whether you know the mantra or don't know the mantra, or know Sanskrit, or know how to put on a dhoti or wear tilak, it doesn't even matter. It's the mentality we're trying to get for compassion for all of sentient beings and for this world, and that the idea of sharira shariri bhava, right? It doesn't have to be in Sanskrit, but the idea of a holistic universal philosophy. That's what we want to instill in people. That's the important thing, that understanding that, and not everything else is details. That when we do go through it in a detailed way, with the way the Indian acharyas have explained it, with the mantra and all these things, then it explains to us the mentality that we're supposed to have. But it's the mentality which is important. So if we can get to that same mentality without the mantra, without any Sanskrit, without any of the cultural trappings or whatever it is, that's also okay. Like that. It's harder to do that. It's easy to do it this way, right? Because it's explained in a way that we can understand it, we can relate to it. But if some person cannot relate to this, cannot relate to Sanskrit, cannot relate to the Indian cultural trappings or the whole thing like that, we can explain it in a holistic, universal way without that. It's still the same philosophy. It's right. Just the theology might be a little different, but just like I said, I said panentheism, Ramanuja's understanding and everything is not just there in Sri Vaishnavism. It's also there in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. It's also there in some forms of Shaivism. It's also there in other religions like Christianity and other, even in some forms of Buddhism, right? Not the Theravada, but the Mahayana and the Vajrayana. It's there in all these different philosophies, but not explained to such an extent as the Sri Vaishnavas have done it. They have gone to the greatest detail of this that I have seen so far. If somebody can show me some other philosophy that's gone to this detail, but they've really explained it in a very, very minute, down to a very minute detail. So that, because even we understand, even if like we look at the Wadagalas or we look at the Gaudiyas or we look at some other people who are religious and they believe in God and they believe in serving God, but there's still that minute ego there that I am serving, that I have to do something, right? That involves my ego, like that. And that we're trying to get beyond that. And if we can get beyond that, then it becomes totally universal, because there's no qualification. Because as long as there's an ego, there has to be qualification. As long as I have to do something, I have to be qualified to do that, and I have to actually do it. But if I don't have to be qualified and I don't have to do anything, that means God does everything. That means I just surrender to my place in the whole, and I made it. And that's universal. That is universal. So, okay. So I guess it's getting a little late now. So we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, see you next week.
Okay.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it.
Namaskar.
Namaskar.